Oceania Regionals top 8 deck list. Let's go. So you guys will see we had the Oceania top 8 online regionals last weekend, the last weekend of June, rounding out the month where we actually had 2 online tournaments. So first things first, it's great to have so many Masters event going along. It would be nice to see more participation, but the fact that we're just getting a lot of events is always a positive thing to see, because last year I think we might have got like 2 in-person events and maybe a handful of online, and this year we've had lots of events. So shout out Bandai for giving us lots of events. Please do keep them coming. But as you guys will see the breakdown, you will see that first place, and a big shout out to M, who went back to back. He won the other online regionals, which, quick little thing, if you guys do want to see that, I did have that data that I sent off. There hadn't been a video done about it, so if you guys do want to see it, I can do it. Let me know in the comments. It does actually take a lot of time to build all these lists on Deck Planet, so as you can imagine, it can be a bit time consuming, and if I want to do Masters content, which I do, I can't sacrifice doing the Fusion World content, especially when it is such an important time for Fusion World at the moment with the manga booster just releasing. So I do have to do that little bit of extra effort. So if you guys can show the appreciation, I will definitely get to doing those lists. But as I said, M did take down first place, and another shout out to him. And you will see that the deck he was running was the BT25 Green Arrival Trunks. Now, if you ask me, I definitely wouldn't have seen this. And judging by the post on Facebook, it's actually a bit of an anti-meta pick to sort of counter all these Novas and Vegetas. So it'd be really interesting to see a bit more insight on how the deck actually works, because when I first started playing this game, Arrival was like the keyword that I really enjoyed, because that's what it actually was on the demo game that you used to play to learn how to play the game on your phone, and Arrivals was the thing I liked. So when that deck came out, I was actually pretty keen to try it. I had it built. I actually unsleeved it a few weeks ago because I was like re-sleeving Cooler Unison. So I'd be very interested to see how this goes against some of these top decks. But moving on, second place, we do have Nuova, and well, it's Nova. And people saying it's the best deck in the format, and you know, it has a very heavy representation here, so I guess you can sort of go on with that, you know, best deck in the format. Then we did have 2 Vegetas, and we will see, as I do see that now, that I actually missed the A on the Vegeta, so my apologies there. But Vegeta, just an absolute extremely strong representation, specifically in Oceania. If you go and look at some of the like Latin America and some of these other lists that I have seen, like the top 8, there's a lot of Vegeta, but it's nothing like the representation it is getting in Oceania. Then of course, 5th place, we do have another Nova. Like I said, best deck in the format. It's going to be getting multiple tops. And then the one that really caught my eye when I saw this list and I saw who the pilot was, I was not surprised that this person was able to actually pilot this deck to a top 8 finish. And it's a deck that I actually enjoyed when it first came out with this whole successor thing. There just wasn't, you know, it just wasn't quite that. But it did get a little bit of support in History of Z, and just with, like, at the moment, green and yellow seem to actually be a really good combo. Obviously, myself being very strong on Zamasu, I felt that the green-yellow Zamasu build was very good because you had access to Dormant and Nimbus, which kind of just shuts the game down. If you're not dormanting one turn, you're only limiting them to 1 battle card attack. So being able to do that constantly is just just prolongs the game, and then over time, the big bodies can sort of become a problem. Then speaking of Zamasu, we have a 7th place, another Zamasu list. And the one thing that always makes me smile is seeing Zamasus on these top 8 lists, especially when there's a lot of Vegeta floating around, because some people just sit there and say that Vegeta is just an auto loss for Zamasu. And while it is Zamasu's hardest matchup, it is very winnable if you make the right deck choices. And then finally, rounding out their top 8, another Nuova, of course. So that's the top 8, guys. Let's get into some lists. Alright, so we are over on Deck Planet, and you will see the list on the screen here. I will actually probably run through some of these cards because I don't fully know what all of these cards do. So some of you guys might actually not know what this deck really does, because I don't think I have actually seen it top anywhere. I mean, I don't look at every single list that comes out in top 8 videos. Only lists that kind of jump out at me, I will admit. So seeing this on there, I don't actually really remember what this list does. So we will go through this one a little bit, and I'm sure if M were to see this video and sees any comments, I did see on his Facebook post that if you do have any questions about the deck, do ask him. I have seen a few times that like he is pretty good with answering questions. And the one thing that was pointed out is this deck is a extremely pilot heavy deck. So not only to guide this kind of a deck in the meta that it is at the moment to a top 8 finish, let alone win the event, is a pretty good achievement. So we will, like, you got to give credit where credit is due. If you can take these high skilled decks and take them to wins, you just really it just really shows the kind of pilot that you can be. And his teammate actually comes second as well, so big shout out to both of them. And the main man, Greg, who actually sort of put this team together. They go by House of Cards, and it's great to see teams out and about. So we don't tend to see many teams floating around anymore in the TCG scene. You mainly just sort of see one, maybe two teams floating around, but it is good to see another team come on, and they have just absolutely been dominant in these last 2 online regionals. So it is good to see another team, and it would be good to see another team emerge at some point, because at the moment, these guys are going to be pretty hard to beat. So we'll quickly run over the leader, because I do need a refresher on this myself. So it's permanent, negate the energy exhaust skills on red-green multicolor Saiyans in all areas. So that just sort of means you don't have to take up the 4 spots to run the Checkland Broly, because I don't believe there is actually any other red-green Checklands, because red-green isn't something that you see very often. It's mainly like green-yellow or blue-green. They're sort of like the main 2 colors that you see mixing. So you don't tend to see any other negate energy exhaust multicolors outside of that. Really good, because looking at this deck list, you generally don't need to charge too many multicolors, so maybe you can just get away with charging 2 multicolors. But you will see there is probably, what is there, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 multicolor targets. So generally looking, a lot of these are 1 energy, and I believe the leader does actually remove the cost for some of them, so maybe that need to have the extra, like, multicolor energy just isn't needed, because the leader does remove 1, as I think, yeah, so it reduces it by a red, so you can generally get away with, like, charging more green cards instead of having to charge multicolor cards, so that is really good. So your auto once per turn, when your Vegeta or Trunks future card attacks, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add up to a Saiyan or an Earthling, both red or green with energy cost 4 or less, add it to your hand, and then the Awaken condition, when your life is at 4 or less, you have 2 more energy, and a Vegeta rescuing a Sun is in play, you draw 1, switch an energy to active mode, and take down to 6, and I believe that is this card here, and it does this card. So activate battle if you have a battle card with a rival in play, choose up to 1 Vegeta or Trunks in your combo area, and it can't be removed from your combo area except by skills. Can't play battle cards without a rival for the turn. At the end of the turn, place the card. So if I understand this right, because this always like baffled me when I was trying to understand how this card worked, does this card actually, if I read this right, whenever someone combos, there's always a card in your combo area, so you're always like, basically makes you like a 20k base leader on defense, if I understand that correctly. I could be wrong, so I'm sure someone will like remind me. That's the Awaken condition. When we're awakened, when you use a card in a combo, you draw a card. Being able to draw cards on both your and your opponent's turn is generally pretty strong. Like, being able to draw multiple cards off your leader skill is really strong in any deck. So activate battle. If it's your opponent's turn, you have 1 or more red cards, 1 or more green cards in your combo area, which you tend to do because you set up arrivals. During the next time you activate a red-green arrival on a Vegeta or a Trunks card, you reduce it by a red. Now if you see this Trunks here, it is used, is it a red to play? This Vegeta is a red to play. So these are actually free plays on your opponent's turn. And this, of course, is the boss monster. So double strike. This is 2 energy, but with your leader skill on your opponent's turn, it becomes down to a 1 energy. When this card is played or attacks, so double effect, you minus something, a battle or a unison card, and oh my word, being able to nuke unisons. We think back to Kid Q, how powerful Kid Q was when it was able to minus your unisons. Again, Zamasu player, Kid Q was absolute hell because it could touch your unison. And on top of that, your opponent adds 1 card from their hand to their Z energy. So Z-energizing things can be like a bit of a catch-catch situation. Like, it can give them a lot of Z energy to utilize their Z deck. But generally at the moment, there are a lot of decks that don't really care about having lots of Z energy, unless of course they're playing against red. and you aren't a red leader, you're a green leader. So you don't have to worry about people like having heaps of combo and there's the energy for explosive dance. So this is generally really good. And then activate battle, if you have one or more red cards and one or more green cards in your combo area, you draw. So you can also play this, and then as soon as you play this, you use activate battle because your arrival would have had the red and the green. You can arrival, draw a card as well, and then if your next turn, whenever it lives, you set up another arrival, you draw again. So really, really good. Solidarity, of course, still probably arguably the best green boss monster because there's not a lot of cards that have any interaction with this. And then the other effect, which doesn't actually, like, pretty much never comes up outside of Green Gohan, but you will see that M is actually running this Decisions Made card. And this card was made to actually partner up with this card because you would get to, I believe, free combo it in the Green Gohan deck, and it actually burns your opponent another life. Really, really good interaction. It is good to see it working again, but this card is still very, very strong in the meta. So the next card is actually a very old card, and this goes all the way back to set 8. And when you think we're in set 27 going into like set 28 next, man, that card has been around for a long time. And back then, I don't know if there was actually any other multicolor cards that had this like combo cost reduced. Whereas now you do tend to see any multicolor archetypes that come out, it generally does get a card that is printed if you have a multicolor in your energy, reduced in your hand by 1. So a very, very old card. I imagine this is probably just used as a free combo to set up an arrival, but I'm not 100% sure. And now this card, honestly, this card was probably like one of the first cards I ever owned because I thought that like Arrival was this coolest thing ever. And I saw this card and I was like, man, this card is amazing. SCR of choice is Purunga. And I just think Purunga at the moment, if you're playing a green deck, it's just the way to go. Like, I've been testing Green Cooler Unison myself, and I was playing Cell Max in it, and I was just like, there's so many times where I just like, I'd be in like this 50-50 situation, I'd just be like, and I just throw Cell Max away. Because like trying to push quad strikes at the moment just aren't the thing. The only thing that like you really do with Cell Max these days is if your opponent goes down to 1 life, you just burn them their last life. Chi-Chi, so a super combo, not super combo, pseudo super combo. So if you have 2 more red or green multicolor cards in your energy, which you generally will do because you awaken like turn 2, so your first 2 turns are probably just charging multicolors. So you can fill this, and when you combo with this card, you draw. This Majin Buu I have been seeing popping up a fair bit, especially in decks that do have unisons that generally tick up high marker counts, especially in like this deck because like you have a card that adds markers to your unison. Now, I know there is some decks that do play, like I know Vegeta sometimes plays the Royal Evolution, so its leader can attack multiple times through floodgates or whatever. So decks that have leaders that can swing multiple times, this card is actually really, really good. Now, next card is this Promus. This card is a counterattack. And if your leader is a green Trunks and you have a green Z Unison in play, you may activate this card's counter skill from your hand without paying its energy cost. So a free blocker, it doesn't negate the attack, but a free blocker can be good because it just like allows you to set up another blocker, of course, for free, for absolutely no energy. You know it can't block the attack because it has to see, the blocker has to see it beforehand, but it has to activate battle. You can use a mono red green or a mono red Saiyan with a 5,000 combo power from your drop in a combo. So again, good for helping set up your arrivals. Now we go into the Z deck. Piccolo, and Piccolo is actually really, really good if you have a wide board. The one thing I feel like in green is a lot of decks generally don't have 1-cost barrier removal, and that's this card. If you have a deck that can go pretty wide with a lot of bodies, this Piccolo, if you've got like 4 cards on the board, this Piccolo is a 1-cost barrier removal that swings twice for 20k. We have our Unison, and this one, what is this one? So activate battle +1, add up to 1 Vegeta or Trunks from your combo area to the hand. Okay, so I believe there's like something, I think at the end of the turn, like you lose something? Yeah, so at the end of the turn, you place the chosen card in the owner's drop. So you like use this to take it out so it doesn't go to the drop, I believe. And then the activate battle, use up to 2 red or green cards from 5,000 combo from your drop in a combo with their skills negated for the turn. And then we move on, we got 2 more uneasing. The King Vegeta, old Unison, a Kamehameha Deflect, Bujan, the Hand Discard Hate, Fade Arrivals for more barrier removal. This is for, I believe, for blue. Yep. So your opponent discards 1, and then your like blue opponent can't remove stuff. and then 1 Koitsukai. So, big shout out to M for first place. Moving on, we have second place. We have DS Dean representing House of Cards, and he is on Nova. We all know what Nova does by now, so we won't like go around too much about it. So we have 4 of the 4-drop, 4 of the 8-drop. We have 8 balls, 2 of the 2-drop Nova, 4 Haze Shenron, 4 of the Allies Absorbed, 1 of the Triple Strike, 3 of the Cold Heart, 4 of the Oceania's top searches, and then generally a lot of these decks actually sort of like are about the same. Some of them are playing maybe more of this, maybe they're only playing 7 balls instead of 8. Some aren't playing like a full count of Oceania's, and generally they're all playing like 3 of the Omega. Everything is pretty much the same. There is a couple of different like SCR choices, and of course how many copies of the Frieza they're playing, or how many like Overwhelms. So these lists are pretty much the same. We won't go about them too much. We've seen Nova a lot. The Z deck, pretty much all the same. We did actually have Dean on stream twice, so he was the only person that got on stream twice. Shout out to him for being so cool with being on twice. I did try to get like different people every round, because the one thing that I see in comments on people that do live streams is why we're seeing the same decks over and over again. So I did try to avoid that. And you will see the side deck is actually playing the Gohan's Unison, which I don't think I saw in any of the other builds. But yeah, so congratulations on second place to Dean. Third place was a Perfect Force Cell, and this guy has been on an absolute roll. I don't know how he went in the last online regionals, but all the other regionals he has top 8'd with this Vegeta. And he did tell me that his list from the last top was, I think, like 1 card different, as was the next list was like 1 card different. So a big shout out to him. He has shown he is a force in the Oceania scene, and he has done an absolute great job. So big shout out to him. I believe a lot of these lists are starting to become very, very similar. I know when the deck first came out, there was a lot of versatility with SCR choices, of course, and then just sort of other few little tech pieces. But now that we've had a fair few events, I think this deck has kind of settled its own way. And then it's just a few kind of like tech pieces that people just choose to run differently. So we have 2 of the Double Strike Vegeta, 3 of the Goku Black, 2 of the Servant Vegetas, 1 of this Piccolo. So I haven't actually seen any other lists running this, but this basically just like beams your leader, and is a 2-cost Double Strike. And then, yeah, so I think it swings twice for Double Strike, so really, really not a bad card. Obviously, I think in this game, if you're playing things that aren't 1 cost, it generally, people try to stay away from them. So that's probably why you don't see this card very often, because I still think this isn't a bad card, but at 2 energy, you kind of only pay like 2 energy for things unless it's like a versatile card for your deck, or it of course is your SCR. 4 of the combo for your barrier removal. So good being able to have access to this, and that is due to, of course, this Dark Broly, which acts as black in your energy. 2 of Bardock the Tenacious, which I would probably argue is your main floodgate in the deck, because like we talked about Nimbus being really, really strong, Bardock is basically the same thing. The only thing is you just can't like stack it turn after turn, because it would probably be way too broken. 2 of the Promo Vegetos, 2 of the Negate Gohans. I have heard people talk really, really highly of this card, but they've just found times where they just don't want to run it. But that is what it is. 2 of the 4-drop Overwhelms, 4 of the Skillless Searcher, which lets you like combo skillless cards, 4 of your Barrier Blocker, which I spoke of earlier. Barrier Blocker's pretty good, and this one that gets to restand, pretty good. This guy, of course, your early game facilitator, defeating the demon, just being able to interact and minus something by 20 on your opponent's turn, or having a 1-cost Double Strike for game is really good. This Android 17 has recently found its way in, because when you combo with skillless cards off your Leer effect, which of course you do, you basically get yourself a pseudo super combo, and pseudo super combos are pretty good, especially in this deck where you don't actually combo off a card to start with because you've used your leader effect. 2 testing, 4 backbone, because it is searchable off of course your Gohan, and it just allows you to play on like 5 life instead of 4. 3 explosive dances, and people are like starting to slowly use less and less explosive dances. I think generally the top players of the meta know how to push through this kind of floodgate, especially in this deck. Like you see there's a lot of 20Ks here, so charging 20k Z energy isn't overly hard to do. It's just those like bigger numbers that are kind of hard to do. And of course, Broly Omen of Evolution, which does actually sort of deny your opponent charging Z energy, which can be very, very strong. And of course, the Z deck, so we're running the 1-cost Double Strike, which gains 10k. This one, so what, barrier blocker. If you just need to like set up to like barrier blocker, boom, there you go for 1 energy. Or you can just have like a 1 energy, swings for 15, so you, like if you, okay, so there you go. For each marker on this card, it gets 5,000 power, so you can just pay like a heap of energy and have this like beefy dual attack in unison to like try and push damage for game, or you can just set up a barrier blocker for 1 energy. 2 of these the extra, because sometimes you do generally resolve a few of these, because 15k combo power is nothing to sniff at. One of the Double Strike Barrier, which can be played for 1 by taking a Goku and a Vegeta from your warp and placing it into their honest drop, which can also actually help set up like another free play. Like if you've got 4 cards in your drop, you've got 1 energy, you've got a Goku Vegeta in your warp, you can like play this, get those 2 more cards in your drop, or even like you needed 3 cards and then swing with it to move another one. So this can actually help set up free plays, and just of course a 1-cost Double Strike that has barriers pretty strong. Next is the Omega, which is pretty much the same thing as the Piccolo. Instead of being a dual attacker, it is a neg 20 on a battle, or a unison, which we did speak of, with unisons being being able to touch unisons is strong in this game. 1 Defender of Life, if you ever want that burn damage, and then this is like the main early play game of the deck, of course, which ends up being a 2-cost and just like pretty much stops your opponent dead in their tracks sometimes. Of course, you see the side deck here, the Begrudging Allies, the Koits, the Blue Hate. You use a Black Gohan because it's like it suits in with your leader. Because the red one is, I forget, red is a Mai, which is an Earthling, so it doesn't suit your like archetype. Hidden Ambitions for the counter, a Broken Seal, Protector of the People, King Vegeta's Imposing Presence, and Violent Ray. So congratulations, Cell, on your 3rd place finish. Moving into 4th place is, of course, Mr. Benny Zhang, so big shout out to him. Man, this guy is probably one of the most consistent competitors in OCE. The man's resume is very, very long, and he has been very consistent in all the events that I've seen from him recently. So you will see the list is very, very similar, of course. I actually think, so we see the last list wasn't running the 8-cost Gohan and only 2 of the Vegetas, whereas this list is running that, it is running I think this ratio is the same. It was only running 2 to 3 of these, and this one is running 1 less Explosive Dance and Flight of the Grand Eagle, which, like, if you, like, have a couple of Vegetas out, Flight of the Grand Eagle, you just minus the Vegetas, because pretty much the Vegetas never die, because your opponent doesn't want to give you access to them again. If they're in your drop, you get them into your warp, you play them again. So, generally, this is actually a pretty good card, because you will have a card like Vegeta on the board that you can neg, because I believe it is, yeah, if your leader's red, you can activate this card's counter skill by choosing 2 known token battle cards, and negging 10 costs. So they're really good for help setting up so like you don't like die on your opponent's final swing of the game, whatever it is. Sees the Z deck is almost the same, except he is playing 1 copy of the 3-cost unison Jiren, which can like negate attacks. So you can just like slap this Jiren down if you want to. Gains 5k for every marker. You have to pay 3, so it's like, what is that, 25k? So 3 energy, 25k, dual attacking, barrier, which negates attacks. Pretty good if you need to like slow the pace of the game down, if you like get floodgated for whatever reason. And then if you really want to, you've got this double striker that can attack twice, minus the board by 25, and then being your leader for the next turn. Or you can minus something 25, ignoring barrier. So again, probably never comes up because it is 4 energy, but yeah. And we see the side deck, so one thing that we didn't see in Cell's list was, of course, this red Goku, which is sort of your answer to blue, because if blue stick the Zamasu counter, you can't remove it outside of cards of this, so you just play this card for blue specifically. And outside of that, we are playing this, which burns you. So if your opponent's life is at 3 or more, so if your opponent's at 3 and they negate when this card swings, like it deals them a damage, takes them to 2, puts them in double strike range. So it can be pretty good just for like a little bit of burn pressure. Shoes for like those pesky cards like Oceania, if like Obviously, Benny has been playing around a long time, so respecting cards like Oceanus in mill decks is definitely a thing. So that is Benny's list. Big shout out to him, and let's move on. 5th place was Medite. I hope I said that right. Some of these names that I just don't say right. And we will see that this is another Nova. And similar to the first Nova list, it is kind of just ratios. I believe Dean's list wasn't running this Vegeta, whereas this list isn't running, I think, Forbidden Power, I think it was. It's also running a Fighted Spirit instead of 2 Masked Saiyans. It is also running this Vegeta, which, like, when you Z-charge it, if you yellow, you have 3 or more Z energy. When this card is attacked or is added to Z energy, choose one of your opponent's battle cards of unison, switch it to rest mode. So, like, this can get out of, like, 2 attacks. This will help you get out of 2 attacks for, like, 1 card. So, like, you combo, you get out of the attack, and then you rest something else, so you get out of another attack. So, pretty good there, and it just, like, for 1 energy, it's a dual attacker that can rest something. Prideful Transformation, a very old card, which is pretty good, synergizes very well with this deck because, of course, you use a Z Unison, so you can just, like, play this for free, switch stuff to rest mode. So anything that doesn't have barrier, like, for example, this card doesn't have barrier, so you can just rest this on play. So pretty good, only 2 Friezas. We'll see Gogeta is the SCR of choice, of course, and we do main deck and Absolute Annihilation. And I believe this list is running a Surmounting and a second Haze. I can't quite remember what the first one was. And then you will see, of course, the side deck is a little bit different. We've got a Tyrannical Blow. I'm not 100% sure what that would be for. We've got a bit of barrier removal here. Just in case, like, we burst our SCR, we've got Trunks to recover it. Or for, like we play a lot of mill in Oceania, so these guys kind of like tech, so like if he ever mills his SCR in this mill matchup, he can just get it back. And of course, Frost to put cards back in your deck to help you live that a bit longer against mill. So congratulations on your 5th place finish. So 6th place was, of course, Alan, and anyone who plays in Oceania knows just how strong of a pilot and player Alan is. Very, very good rep for TCG in general, and you do see that he has played Frieza. So this one we might give a quick little refresher. So, like, adds a card from life to your hand. You search top deck for a green or yellow Frieza, which pretty much is your whole deck outside of a few cards. And then at 4 or less, you draw 1, switch 1. And then on the permanent side, when choosing battle cards for the skill cost of successor on Frieza cards in your hand, once per turn, you may choose any number of your opponent's battle cards as mono green cards. So if your opponent's playing a black deck, once per turn, you can make them green, or you can make them green to source your successor. So we've got ways to also add costs to things. I think this Krillin, if your leader's green Frieza and you have green use the Unison, choose on your opponent's, and your opponent has no battle cards, draw 1, play this card from your hand, and your opponent, okay. So you can basically give this to your opponent for a 3 cost, so on, to help, like, set up your, what are they called? Successors. Forgotten. We are also playing the Majin Buu Floodgate. So basically, like, Topo, 2 Solidarities, and so we're going to the Frieza chain. So this is a 1-cost successor, 3 or more energy. When it's played, you draw a card and it gets 10k for the turn. So for 1, a 30k double strike. This one is a 7 cost, so kind of like in most decks, I would say it would be kind of hard to pull off, but with ways to, like, manipulate what cost your opponent's energy has, and I believe you can manipulate some of your costs, it does actually help make these, like, odd numbers a lot easier. So if your leader's green and you draw a card. So pretty much I think all these cards replace themselves, which is really strong. And when your opponent plays a battle card, you may choose it, switch it to rest mode. So, like, basically a the Prideful Transformations that we just saw. So deflect, crit, dual attacker. So it is 2 energy, so probably not as usable in the deck. Now this card was the new card that come from BT27. So it is either a red or a green. If you have 3 or more energy, draw 1 card. And if you have a green-yellow multicolor card in your energy, reduce the combo cost of this card in your hand by 1. So we did say earlier that a lot of the newer decks that are getting support or new archetypes are getting generally these cards. So pretty good to have a multicolor that you can combo. I don't believe there was any arrival in the deck, so, you know, it is good if you have arrivals, but also just another free combo card. So when this card is played by Successor skill, choose one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier and KO it, and then choose one of your opponent's unisons and remove 2 markers from it. So, two marker removal, pretty good. We spoke earlier about the unison removal. And then just 1 energy for barrier removal. Like, we did also talk about 1 energy barrier removal being absolutely ridiculous. So, pretty good card for the deck. And then it is just a 30k vanilla beat stick outside of that. And of course, our boss monster. And like, I have thought a few times about like making like a yellow-green cell that could fit this card in, because it is like a big boy that swings double twice, and it also floodgates your opponent. So it is 3 energy, that is the only downside to it, but you draw 2 cards. It is like a free check land as well. When this card is played, your opponent can't attack until the end of their turn unless they switch one of their active mode cards to rest mode each time. So that is including your leader swing. So generally you start your turn, you have to pay energy. You don't have to pay energy. When you want to start swinging, you just have to start resting things. So it kind of floodgates your opponent. It definitely floodgates your opponent. But yeah, so you don't see this very often because it is like 3 energy. I'm sure decks would probably try and fit this in if it was easier to get the 10, or if it didn't cost like 3 energy. So we have this Frieza here, which I believe, so activate main, declare 1 number that's 3 or less, increase this card's energy by that cost. So like for 1 cost, and then you just can choose what cost you need the card to be, which, like I said, helps facilitate these 7s and the 9s and the 10s. But generally the 8s and the 6s aren't too bad, but being able to like manipulate what your successor cost is just like really helps the whole archetype. So I believe this one, so like self-awaken, because you awaken at 4, switches something to rest mode, and then this one, and then something like this like stuns something. So pretty much the same thing. The one thing that you do need, your leader is a green Frieza. You have 1 or more green energy and 1 or more yellow energy. So it just does require some, like a tiny bit of setup. And this Zarbon, I believe, was the newest card. And let's have a look. When this card's played, choose one of your keyword skills in your opponent's battle cards, negate it for the turn. And during this turn, for the next time, you activate a success skill on a Frieza to reduce the skill cost by a yellow and 1. So you can make your 10 drop cost 1 energy with this Zarbon. So obviously it still technically costs 2, but you get a 15k body, which is half of your successor cost. So this basically just allows you to be able to use your 10 drop successor pretty much every turn without really having to go up the chain, which is pretty good. And I imagine that this would probably be like a main setup in the deck, just to like do every turn, because like 1 energy, you can play this out, do what you do. This one replaces itself, switches something to rest mode if you have to, and then you like pay 1 more energy. So like, what's that? 1, 2, 3 energy, and you get all that on the board, which is pretty good. Next card, the Frieza, which synergizes very well with this deck because you have a Frieza's Clan card. Paraga Super Combo we spoke about, Purunga we spoke about, Dormant we spoke about, Dende's Healing Pod. I really, really like this card. Not just like only for the counter attack, because it also draws you a card. Like, so just like being able to replace your hand after negating is like pretty good for keeping a very solid hand size. And like generally all these cards replace themselves. So I would imagine you stay at a pretty good hand size. Homicidal Clones, 1 Nimbus, because we are playing yellow energy, 1 Vegeta here, Divine Spirit, and of course, because our leader is a Frieza's army, we do have access to the additional SCR of Cold Bloodlust. So, massive shout out to Alan for that. We'll go over the Z deck, 1 Oolong, 1 Broly, 4 of this, which I believe, so when you play a yellow Frieza, so which is pretty much your whole deck, this becomes a 15k attacker. Activate main +2. If your leader is green and you declare 1 number that's 3 or less, choose one of your opponent's non-token battle cards. Okay, so it basically manipulates what your opponent's energy costs are, and then a -3 to discard 1 card from your opponent's hand. So if you have like your +2 every turn, you generally can set up like this on a turn where your opponent doesn't have battle cards and you've got nothing to sort of up the cost. We have You Must Die by My Hand, which is pretty much like a 1 for 30k, but if you don't win after that battle, you crit all your life. So this is like your game ender card when you know you're pushing for game. And then, of course, our Z leader. So 1 green energy and 2 Z energy to awaken. We are 30k base, but it has this auto at the end of the battle, which this card was attacked. You may place 2 of your Z energy in your drop if you don't remove this card from the game. So if you build a lot of Z energy, you can generally have a turn where you just stay a 30k Z leader. You don't have to worry about any negates, any dormants, any floodgates, anything like that, because you're just 30k. And then activate main Spirit Boost once per turn. You draw a card and choose one of your green Friezas and switch it to active mode. So like on that, when I mentioned like you just every turn, if you can go into a Z leader and you can just Spirit Boost, you can swing like an additional time with this, which is pretty cooked. 1 gigantic meteor, and of course, like I said, Oolong. And then in the side deck we have the hand discard hate of another Bujan, a Nimbus, a Focus Breakthrough as like just a double down as a Bujan. You do play multicolor energy, so you can use this by taking a life. 1 Mataito because we do play yellow energy, a Koitz, a Bardock fully unleashed, so when you play this card using Overwhelm, choose all your opponent's battle cards and it costs 6 or more and send them to the owner's warp. I guess the one thing that you do see here is the deck generally doesn't actually have a lot of removal, so maybe on those really wide boards that play tall bodies, this is really good. 1 Gohan for some Unison hate. Broly, I'm not too sure how often Broly would come up in this green deck. It's more the decks that's set up for Explosive Dance. 1 extra 8-cost Frieza, and then 1 of these Gohans, which I do really like this Gohan. It obviously, there's only specific places where you would see this used, and that's generally against Red Vegeta if you're trying to answer the 6-cost Gogeta Z battle card. So, 6th place there, an incredible looking list. I definitely will have to build this myself as we do move on there. So we move on now, we move on to Tim's 7th place Zamasu, and big shout out to him. We do chat a lot about this deck. So 7th place Zamasu, we probably don't see it a lot, but we do see it a lot in Oceania. So this is a yellow-green package, which we've been talking about is probably the better way to build it, because you do have access to Nimbus, of course, and you have like free check lands, so you don't have to worry about charging multicolor energy in rest mode. So he's got 6 here, and so I believe they're just purely so he can find check lands. If you ever need to, you can combo him. This Zamasu also doubles down. You can sort of jump in and interact with a 6-cost or less if you really have to. 4 Nimbus, of course. You don't want to play too many yellow cards because you get clogged up. And then we have our main engines. We have 4 of these big boys, 4 of these Zamasus, which draw 2, just remove things with Z, like charging Z energy. This guy, which is your draw engine, and if you actually stick these for a long time, you can pretty much just about deck yourself out. We have this guy, which you don't tend to play as often because it is just a bit of unison removal. 5 or less removal isn't too common, but you don't want to like completely cut this because it is like a multi. We have 3 of these Goku Blacks, which I believe plays the KOs are 4 or less. So pretty much these are mainly just like your Goku Black targets. This one can create you a blocker, and then this is like your main Goku Black that if you ever play, you do this one because you can like search something. And then in the late game, it is very like important because you can play this down. You can choose to draw nothing and then just mill your opponent's one. And I believe this one just mills, doesn't draw, and this one doesn't draw. So if you ever need mills without drawing, these guys also can double down as 1-cost mills, whereas this Zamasu actually draws a card. 4 of this Zamasu, so you sort of want to try and open with this. He's playing 4 of the Hellas because you're a god, so it's searchable if you're leader. And then you can like combo this and discard a Goku Black, which helps set up your permanent skill. This Majin Buu, which we are seeing again because we do run a unison, which can tick up high markers if left alone. 3 homicidal clones, 2 for the greater good, because if it's in your drop, it is also a negate from your drop, which is very handy. 4 dormant, and very, very, very happy to see the SCR of choice is Vermilion Saiyans, because I was saying earlier that Red Vegeta is probably your hardest matchup, and with charging yellow energy and with Red Vegeta charging black energy, Vermilion Saiyans lets you warp 4 things and give you a beam for the turn. And generally in these really hard games, having a extra turn can mean winning the game, and Vermilion Saiyan buys you another turn. So we see the Z deck, 4 Goasu, 4 of the Goku Zamasus, 1 of the Trunks, which I have always thought is just handy tech if you ever need to sort of like survive another turn and you have a dormant, you can play the Trunks, dormant, block with Trunks, negate the next attack, and you sort of can't take any damage. And 1 Gigantic Meteor, which I hadn't seen before, which is, you know, we can be relevant. Side deck, 4 of the Gohan, because we did say that the 6-cost Gogeta is, like, Vegeta is the hardest matchup, and the 6-cost Gogeta is arguably the main thing that makes this matchup extremely hard. So if you play Zamasu and you are worried about this matchup, this card does actually help you. The main reason is because it stops the Gogeta 6-cost from popping, so you can KO it, play your stuff without having something negged for the turn, and then this body also lives. 3 Oceanias, 3 of the Margin Exterminators, 2 of the TNs, I guess that's for the mirror, 2 Solidarities for the barrier removal, and then 1 Charismatic Villain. So congrats, Tim, on your 7th place. And then 8th place, we have Nando. I hope I said that right. And we see another Nova, and this is very, very similar, except this list is maining Release from Evil. It is actually playing Final Flash. Everything is sort of very similar, like there's a 2 of these instead of 1, or 2 of these instead of 3. Only 2 Oceanises. Otherwise, everything is about the same as most lists. Same as the sort of Z deck. Sideboard, we got 3 Begrudging Allies, 2 Koitsukai, 3 Tyrannical Blow, another Absolute Annihilation, 2 of the Broly, very interesting, and 2 of the Oceanus, of course. So if he thinks it's going really long game, he wants to try and deck his opponent out or just stop the turn, Oceanus is the way to go. And of course, Super Namekian Lord Slug, which, you know, that's handy tech. It'd be interesting to know how much that actually come off. But yeah, so that will be the end of the video, and it probably did go a little bit too long because I did spend a lot of time talking about that first place deck, which maybe I might cut down a lot. So this was also my first time doing this, so this was probably always going to take a lot longer than I was expecting it to. But if you did enjoy it, please be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll hopefully see you on another one soon.